Hello, everyone, and God damn it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Culture Cast. I'm Chris Stashu, and you know what, Eric, I really don't want to talk about this movie. I don't.
But why not? It's fucking fantastic.
Fucking bad.
It's so awesome. It has all the things that you want in movies. Slow motion, lots of really fake looking jelly blood, more slow motion, a lot more fake jelly blood, a lot of gratuitous titties, a lot more slow motion.
A scene that almost amounts to rape.
There's also slow motion titties. There's also slow motion blood. There's a magical horse.
It's a film that is an hour and 42 minutes long, and if you sped up the slow motion parts, it's like an hour long.
Wow. I want to watch that cut of the movie. That sounds fucking awesome.
Well, if you don't know what we're talking about 300 Rise of an Empire, the first film in our action sequel month, and a film that I wager you forgot existed. Because, to be perfectly honest, I kind of forgot that it existed.
I will never forget this movie existed because of one reason.
Yeah,
we're going to get it out of the way early.
Ava Green.
Ava Green's titties.
Yeah. Well, okay, fair enough.
Yep. I'm a man. I'm a man, and I'll never forget a set of warlocks. And Lord Almighty, I won't.
So the film is directed by Noam Morrow. It's written partially and produced partially by Zack Snyder, the director of the first film, 300. And it stars Sullivan Stapleton, Ava Green, and Lena Headey. Lena Headey playing Queen Gorgo from the first film. And it is a prequel, midquel, and sequel to the original 300 film.
Was Lena Headey in the first one? Was she the wife in the first one?
Yep, she was.
It begins as a whisper, a promise. The lightest of breezes dances above the death cries of 300 men.
A wind, my brothers, of sacrifice. A wind of freedom. A wind of justice. A wind of vengeance.
Of my empire.
I will attack the Greeks with my entire navy.
There will be death and destruction. Yes, there will be.
So, Eric, what do you think of the original 300, and what do you think of this film, the sequel to 300?
I remember watching the original 300 in the theater when it came out and thinking like, whoa, this is fucking insane. This is crazy. Like, this is such a cool movie. Because it was so different than any other movie at that point that I had seen. You know, it's extremely, like all the slow motion and like the fight scenes and, like the hyper stylized, way that it was shot. And a lot of the slow motion scenes were basically just like ripped straight out of like, frames from the comic. And a lot of that stuff is really cool.
Comic in quotations. It's not really a comic.
Yeah,
it's
whatever. Graphic novel.
I'm not talking about graphic novel comic. It's like a picture book.
Yeah, essentially, it's mostly what 300 is, of just a lot of slow motion battles with like a little bit of dialogue and like even less story interspersed sort of throughout.
Because if you go out and buy 300 the book, it is a large book. It is like a photo book. It is not a normal like graphic novel that looks like a comic book, but like a bound comic book.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, the first time I saw 300, I was like, wow, that was awesome. Because it's,
How old
at the
were
time,
you when 300 came out?
God, when did 300 come out?
2006.
2006. So I would have been 16, 17?
Yeah, I was 16.
Oh, if you were 16, then I was older.
Yeah.
God, so yeah, I don't know. Maybe I was 17. 2006. Duh. I would have been 17. Jesus Christ, I don't even know how old I am. Yeah, so I was 17 when it came out. And, at the height of my whatever adolescence, I was like, whoa, this movie's totally rad, bro. It's totally cool. I watched it again recently, and the slow motion really fucking irked me. I was like, man, this is fucking... I was like, speed up the pace a little bit of the movie, guys. Like, I get what you're going for is like this sort of like beautiful, like cinematic, like picture book, comic book, graphic novel, like quality, like in a film. And that's great, but like, I don't know. I don't feel like it holds up, 12 years later or whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's 300. Now, Rise of an Empire. Oh boy, that's a horse of a different color. Let's just say. What did you think?
It's a horse of the same breed, different color.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. What did you think of 300?
Oh, I fucking hate 300 now. I'm with you. Like, I'm sure if I think back to when I was 16, I loved it. Like, oh, this movie's fucking cool. There's blood and there's slow-mo and fucking cool, like, one-liners like, tonight we dine in hell and this is Sparta. But man, watching it as an adult, oh my God, it's a fucking travesty of a film. It is, if you want to watch a film that you tell someone this is who Zack Snyder is as a director, 300. That is Zack Snyder, the director, as a film.
Yeah, 100%.
And he hasn't changed as a director.
No.
And that's the problem, is that he has gone from making that fucking abortion to Watchmen, which I know some people really love, and I mean, that's fine. I think it's just, I would rather read the comic if you're just going to do a panel-for-panel shot of the comic.
Yeah, which is essentially what Watchmen is for the most part.
Right. And the thing is, like, it's panel-for-panel, but they don't do anything interesting. Like, Sin City is panel-for-panel, but it's an interesting, well-done film. Watchmen is just like an overly long, bloated, 3-hour recreation of the comic.
Yeah.
So, okay, fine. And then 300 is that, but the version where Zack Snyder didn't have to write any dialogue. And then Batman vs. Superman is just 300 with Batman and Superman. Poorly written dialogue, slow motion, nary a plot to be seen.
Yeah.
And Man of Steel is the same fucking thing. It's like a fucking nightmare of a film, slow motion, no plot.
I've still never seen Man of Steel all the way through.
Yeah, because it's a fucking bad movie.
I fell asleep during it the first time I saw it in the theater, I believe. And then every time since then, the only time I've ever sat down to watch it is when it was on TV and I either left or fell asleep or stopped watching it again halfway through. I don't know what happens in that movie. I've never seen the whole thing.
And I can't believe I'm going to say this, but somehow this movie could have used Zack Snyder directing it. Because this movie is like a shitty Zack Snyder movie, which a Zack Snyder movie is already pretty bad, but a shittier version of a Zack Snyder movie is just, this is like the bottom of the bottom of the bottom of the barrel of movies I've seen in a long time.
Yeah. This is a movie that is like the straight to DVD Zack Snyder.
But it's not. That's the fucking insane part. This movie cost $100 million.
Yeah, and it looks and feels like it's direct to DVD.
Well, that's the thing. It doesn't look like it. This movie is clearly shot and, like, cost tons of money. But, like, everything else about this movie feels so phoned in. And, like, trying to piggyback off of the success of a movie that's quote-unquote better. But, I mean, it's like, like this turd is less dried out than this one. This is a fresher turd.
I think it's better only because it was first.
Right,
know?
yeah.
It was the first one. It was the 300 came out and then allowed all those other like better comic book movies to come out after it. That we were all like, whoa, 300 is fucking awesome. And then, if I'm not mistaken, Sin City came out afterwards.
You know about the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah, by a couple of years. What was it? 2009, I want to say?
Actually, we're both wrong. Sin City came out the year before 300.
Oh, never mind. Sin City is the reason that 300 came out.
Okay, hold on. Let's talk about something, and I don't know how much of a dog you have in this fight, but I don't like Frank Miller. I don't think he's a good comic book writer. I think his shit is super one note, and when you look at something like 300 and some of his more recent stuff, this is like a very apparent.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm not a comic book guy. I mean, God, if Sin City was the only thing that Frank Miller ever wrote, I'd be like, the guy's a genius.
No, but he's done other stuff that's like people really get up in arms about.
The only stuff that I even know of Frank Miller's is Sin City and 300, and they both have their merits and they both have downsides for different things. I mean,
he wrote and directed The Spirit. Okay,
yeah, The Spirit. I remember going to see The Spirit.
That movie's a fucking trash can too.
On Christmas Day.
Oh, dear.
And that movie was absolutely terrible. No amount of me being stoned out of my mind could save that movie from being bad.
Well, and Frank Miller also wrote fucking RoboCop 2. Yeah, his original script was like heavily re-edited, but man, RoboCop 2 is a bad movie.
God, I haven't seen RoboCop 2 in a long fucking time, and you guys are going to talk about it without me, so I don't know. Good luck on that one.
When we come back to this film, we're talking about, and that's the thing about this film that I can't wrap my head around. Having seen this for the first time, this is the second time you watched it. But who was this movie made for? This movie came out 8 years after the original 300?
Yeah.
It's like astounding that this movie took so long to come out.
Yeah. If it would have came out 3 years after the original 300, then it might have still been relevant at the time. But when this movie finally came out, I was like, why? And it came out in 3D because, of course it did. That was the time. That was a thing, yeah. That was the time when every movie was in 3D and we were all like, why is every movie in 3D? Nothing needs to be in 3D. No, I don't want to go and see it in 3D. Like, fuck.
Thanks,
right
James
off.
Cameron.
Yeah, fuck you, James Cameron.
And they're
by
still
the way,
showing
Avatar is a terrible movie. Fuck you. I hate Avatar.
They're still showing shit in 3D. You can go see Infinity War in 3D right now.
Yeah, fuck you. Jake Sully can fucking suck a dick. I don't give a shit about fucking Avatar. Anyways.
No self-respecting adult does.
Yeah, except for, I should have known. I had an ex-girlfriend whose dad was obsessed with Avatar, and I should have known that was a bad sign from the get-go, and I should have called it right then and there.
That movie is awful.
He loved it. It was his favorite movie. He watched it religiously, and I was like, maybe I don't want to be a part of your family. But anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Well, you could relate it back to the fact that those movies are supposedly having sequels made that.
Yeah,
sure they are.
Yeah, whatever. Those movies are going to come out in 10 more years from now,
something like that.
The sequels will happen 25 years after the original fucking movie, and nobody will give a shit then. Just like nobody gives a shit now. Anyways, this movie came out way too long afterwards, and I guess it had a bunch of production problems, and the release date was pushed way fucking back from its original release date.
Pushed back a year.
But still, even 7 years after the original movie, that's too fucking long, man. That's too long.
Well, and it's got a weird structure too, right? It's
got a structure that doesn't make sense. They don't explain it well. I'm like, okay, wait a second. So the whole movie, spoilers for anybody who gives a shit, because honestly, nobody gives a shit.
Why should you? You shouldn't. You shouldn't.
The whole movie is basically just Lena Headey telling this story on a ship going into battle. So, yeah, I don't know. She explains this fucking really long story. I mean, the first fucking 10 minutes of the movie are basically just exposition over slow motion, which is a god-awful way to start a movie. It's terrible. Don't ever do it.
Sucks the air right out of the film.
Yeah, it makes it so boring.
I don't really care about what happened in the last movie.
Yeah, and then, I don't know. The whole movie, it just ends up, it's just her explaining what happened before 300 on this other plane, like on this other battle, and then 300, and then now she's gonna kill Xerxes or try to or some shit. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, these guys are just constantly trying to kill Xerxes. Like, first of all, give me a new bad guy. If you're gonna give me a 300 story, especially one that's 8 years removed from the first one, give me a new villain with some new characters. Like,
but here's the thing, Eric. This whole fucking movie is based off of an unreleased at the time graphic novel that is finally coming out in January of this year. It finally released.
Yeah. So
it's insane to me. This movie came out 4 years before the graphic novel it was based on ever came out. And you know why?
Yeah.
Because this movie sucked.
If anything is even more useless than this movie, it's the graphic novel that came out after the movie that this movie was based on. That's a worthless, useless piece of, like, waste of paper and trees. And if it's a graphic novel, it's a waste of bits and bytes and data on the internet. Like, come on. Why does it exist? Like, they should have just, when this movie came out, they should have just been like, mother of God, and just destroyed all evidence like that graphic novel was even remotely a thing.
Well, the film serves as like a prequel to the 300 because it serves as like a how did Xerxes become the monster? And I say monster not in the deeds that he does, but like his appearance is ridiculous.
Yes. How does he go from like being a regular-ish Persian guy to being a god king? To being
a 7-foot-tall bald man whose cock is probably pierced.
Yeah. I mean, we can only use our imagination, but maybe one day we'll get a sequel, and it'll be 300.
Rise of Xerxes' dick.
The rise of Xerxes' penis.
But it serves as a prequel to how Xerxes became the not tattooed, the pierced whatever the hell he's supposed to be creature from
gigantic,
the first film.
The living gigantic golden cock. Because let's be real, he has a very gigantic phallic look about him.
Yeah. So it gives a prequel as to how he became that. It also serves as a midquel because it's taking place concurrently to 300.
There's the boat battle or whatever. Yeah.
There's a point where they're like, Leonidas and the 300 are all dead at the hot gates, and that's a line in this film. So it's like taking place.
Fuck. They're like, no, now it's our turn to fucking kill the Persians, and then they fucking die too.
And then it's also a sequel because you get to figure out what happens to that Ephialtes, that's the toxic Avenger in this movie, whatever that's supposed to be. Sure. So
yeah, whatever. And then
that ridiculous character that serves no. That's the thing with this movie, and that I don't like about it, and I don't know how you feel about it. Is it's a comic book movie, right? Yeah. But it also has these elements to it that feel so heavy comic book that they don't work in this kind of movie.
Yeah.
Like Xerxes, like that character of Ephialtes, like some of the battles just feel absurd to the point of like, this doesn't even work in a film.
Yeah, there's a lot of sequences in this movie that feel like a video game and not like a film.
Like God of War.
Yeah. Like shit on that level, like where it's like so ridiculous that you're like, whoa, yeah, like fucking that's tight. But like in a movie, you're like, what the fuck? Fuck you. No way.
Like when the horse steps on a guy's face and smashes his head.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of awesome like killing shots and sequences in this movie that I watch. And even though I'm like, man, this is stupid, at the same time, I'm like, man, that was awesome. The whole movie can't just be like awesome killing blows and then the occasional titty and then a solid sex scene that goes on for like way too long. I get that they are like they tried to give you a whole lot of universe and world building around the 300 lore in this movie, and none of it made any sense partially because of the way that it was presented, and partially because who cares? Like, they gave us all the information that we needed to know and cared about knowing in 300. 300 is over. We're like, man, those guys were badasses. It sucks they're all dead. Like, that should have been the end of it. And then they were like, but wait, there's more. While those guys were all dying, there was another group of dudes that were also all dying in the ocean at the same time. And we're just like, what? Who cares? Why? What the fuck? Why do all these Grecians have British accents? I don't understand it.
Hold on now. So here's something I wanted to mention, and I don't know how you feel about this. I feel like as much as I don't like 300, the first film, the only reason that film has mildly redeeming qualities is because of Gerard Butler.
Yeah, because you have a strong, like, sort of lead character that everybody's like, damn.
Well, and a strong
Gerard
performance
Butler's a
from
fucking
Gerard Butler.
Badass. Like, he's the fucking most fucked, like, he's the most fucking ripped, insane dude on the face of the earth. People are like, damn, Gerard Butler. You're a fucking the most manly guy that has ever manned. Ever.
And that, for me, is what is, like, mildly redeeming about 300.
Yeah, and then you have this fucking guy who's in this movie who's, like, not nearly as manly, and I'm just like, who cares? Like, your pecs are nothing, dude. I'm like, my friend fucking John has bigger fucking pecs than you, and he only works out like 2 times a week. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Well, they're not supposed to be Spartans, that's the thing. They're supposed to be Athenians, so.
Yeah, so they're Vaginians or whatever.
Wow. It's a film that I believe did not need to exist and was cashing in on a film that came so far before it that it, like, what goodwill or what brand name recognition does the 300 brand have at this point?
Yeah, there's no way that this movie, like, made enough money to, like, justify its existence.
Well, it definitely didn't. I mean, so that's the crazy thing, right? So the original 300 cost $65 million and it made $450 million. This film cost $100 million and it made $300 million.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Crazy. Absolutely crazy. So let's take a break, and when we get back, we'll finish up talking about this film in quotations.
Ugh.
Who is Carl Kolchak?
He's a reporter.
Now that is news, Vincenzo. News! And we are a newspaper. We are supposed to print news, not suppress it.
With the INS.
What's an INS?
Independent news service, sir. Founded in 1904 by Enrico Paluzzi.
Who seems to have a nose for the strange and unusual.
Well, last year in Las Vegas, I uncovered a series of murders that turned out to have been committed by a vampire.
And what is the Kolchak Tapes?
It's a podcast.
All about Carl Kolchak.
What's a Kolchak?
The Night Stalker.
And where can you get it?
On iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and at www.kolchaktapes.com.
As foolish a game as any that Gory the Ghoul could make up.
Movies have become a portal to a vast and growing pop culture universe, but you don't need to go over the rainbow to get your pop culture fix. Just head to Rainbow Comics, Cards, and Collectibles. They are your one-stop shop for comics, toys, posters, games, and more. Not a pop culture nerd? No problem. They have something for everyone, including a wide array of sports cards, collectible card games, even memorabilia. Stop by one of their 2 locations today. The flagship location at 3310 South Minnesota Avenue, Sioux Falls, South Dakota, or their newest location at 1501 Pine Lake Road, Suite 17, Lincoln, Nebraska. Most importantly, don't forget to add them on Facebook for pop culture news, weekly live videos, and special events.
Here's what some people are saying about the Projection Booth podcast.
Week after week, I'm mesmerized by the focus given great films and questionable films alike. But every episode is a learning and entertaining experience.
This is hands down the best movie podcast. They cover so many different genres across so many years, from obscure movies to blockbusters.
If there's only one podcast about movies and cinema that you listen to, make it this one.
The Projection Booth Podcast, with new episodes available every week at projectionboothpodcast.com.
All right, so we are back and we are talking about 300 Rise of an Empire. I think you said it best, Eric. This is like a video game movie. It's like a movie in video game, like a video game in movie form.
Kind of, yeah. I mean, there's this fucking sequence where somebody is riding a horse across ships as they smash into each other and catch on fire and are sinking. First of all, how did this horse even get on the fucking ocean? Who the fuck brought a horse on the fucking boat? That shit's retarded. Second of all, this is the most fearless horse I have ever seen in my goddamn life, and it's just like video gaming across like flaming ship debris onto another ship that's also crashing into another ship that it then jumps on that ship. And I'm just like, shit like that. I'm like, that's a fucking, like, that's a video game cutscene, or like, that's like a section in a video game that's like, this is right before the final boss fight. Like, you have to navigate the fucking horse like through this fucking maze of shit or whatever. And it's the impossibly hard part that like nobody can fucking beat. Like, what the shit?
Some QTEs, some QuickTime events.
Yeah.
No, it completely feels like it, and I mean, that's Zack Snyder. That's like his thing. And, you know, that's the crazy thing about Zack Snyder. I mean, he directed that Dawn of the Dead remake, that one that's actually relatively good. But the reason that it's even remotely a good film is because he had no hand in writing the script. James Gunn wrote the script for that movie. James Gunn wrote the script for that movie.
Who?
James Gunn wrote the script for the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Oh, yeah. That's why it's fucking good.
Yeah. Not because, and that's the thing, Zack Snyder movies, like, this movie, for all intents and purposes, is a Zack Snyder movie, right?
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I can't tell that he didn't direct it, to be perfectly honest. Maybe he would have reined it in a little bit on the 3D. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know.
Rodrigo Santoro's performance as Xerxes is awful. Xerxes is just an awful character. It is like, he's like a laughably bad villain, right?
Is he the same guy who was Xerxes in the first movie, or did they recast Xerxes?
It's the same guy.
Okay, because when I see him out of his Xerxes-ness, I'm like, what the fuck? Like, that's not Xerxes. And then you see him like all bald and shit. Man. And then I'm like, holy shit, it is Xerxes. Like, they made this guy who is like very Spanish seem so Persian.
Yeah, he's a main character in Westworld, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about main, but he's like a semi-major-ish character, like in one of the side plots or whatever.
I don't get the point of his character is so dumb. His character is dumb in like this is why people look at comic books and think comic books are stupid way, because his character is one-dimensional. He's essentially Bane without the mask on, and everything he says is just like, you want to just like sit and laugh.
I do sit and I laugh.
But then you look at Ava Green and she's doing essentially the same thing, but she's like she's hamming it up big time in this movie.
Oh yeah, she's like a total fucking asshole the whole time in this movie, and she's just like, she's
enjoying every little bit of the director and the script just being like, just do whatever you want. Like, just go for it. Just say some stupid shit. Because, you know what, like, nobody gives a shit anyways. So just kind of go completely overboard and be this, like, really caricaturish femme fatale villain. Just go for it.
The dialogue in this movie is so laughably bad that there are, like, points when you watch it and you go, there's no way that they just said that sentence. And then if you go back, as I did, and rewatch certain parts, because of how bad the dialogue is, who fucking cares? You go back and watch it, and you're like,
why is the dialogue?
You're like, oh my god, it is that bad. It's that stupid. Like, that's like some shit that like somebody wrote some placeholder dialogue, and then they were like, all right, cool, this is just like good enough to get the idea across. We'll change it later. And then they forgot to fucking change it. And then on the day, they were like, is this the dialogue? And somebody was like, I fucking guess so. Like, yeah, fucking here you go.
Well, and let's be perfectly honest here. It doesn't help when your leading man is about as generic as it gets.
Yeah. This was like during that time. I think this was even like kind of at the end of that time where it was like they had, God, what did they have? They like did the remake of the Clash of the Titans.
Oh, with other generic, boring Australian man, Sam Worthington?
Yeah. And so it was like the rise of the Australian, like, kind of buff, like kind of generic, like manly man, like leading man time.
But he was in Avatar.
Again, I will continue to reiterate that Avatar is the worst pile of shit I have ever seen.
Remember when they made 2 of those Clash of the Titan movies?
They made a second one?
Yeah, it was Wrath of the Titans, bro.
I didn't even know that. Oh, wait a second. Now I'm remembering it. Okay, yeah. I just forgot about it. I struck it from my memory until just now.
Liam Neeson and Ray Fiennes are in those goddamn movies?
Yeah, dude. They're fucking gods. Ray Fiennes is like Hades or some shit. Like, holy shit. Liam Neeson is Zeus with a fucking
ridiculous
armor on?
Beard.
Oh, the worst
beard. We should have talked about those movies, because those movies are at least like fucking dumb and bad, but in a way that is entertainingly bad.
Yeah. I mean, those movies are bad. This movie is also bad, but this movie is like also really boring. which is
it's
terrible.
not entertaining.
Yeah, there are small moments like where you're like, all right, like this is kind of cool. And then like that's it. Like the rest of it is boring. And that's the worst part about this movie. The worst part about this movie is not how over the top the jelly blood is. It's not how ridiculous like the fucking gratuitous, fucking titties are. It's not like how stupid the story is. It's how fucking boring this movie is. Like, how do you make a gigantic $100 million action movie boring?
Like casting a boring lead in it and trying to essentially remake the first film and not having any idea how to do it. And you make a film that is just mediocre. Just mediocre.
Yeah, this is like a full-on knockoff of 300 while supposedly being a different story in the same 300 universe. So I'm just... Also, which empire is supposed to be on the rise in this movie? I just realized, like, is it Xerxes' empire?
It's the Grecian Empire.
But they don't win at the end of this movie.
Well, we don't know what happens at the end of the movie. The movie ends before anything interesting happens.
Duh.
That's the other thing, and that's the thing that's so dumb about this movie. This movie is set up to be the second part in a 3-part series because you want to see the character of Xerxes get his comeuppance, and he doesn't. Spoilers. The character of Xerxes gets no comeuppance. There's no story arc to Xerxes. There's no falling action to Xerxes.
And didn't they end like the first 300 movie where they were like, and now we've got an army of 10,000 Spartans and 50,000 other people and 100,000 other peoples, and now we will fight Xerxes and we will murder him. And they're like, yeah, and then like that's the end of the movie. And I was like, whoa, all right, go for it, guys, you're gonna do it. They did the same thing at the end of this movie. What happened? Like, what's going on? Are those battles taking place at the same time? Are they different? Did we lose the first battle? Did they forget about that battle?
No, that battle takes place before this movie.
No, it doesn't.
Yes, it does.
No.
Yes, it does. Yes, it
no,
does.
It doesn't.
That battle takes place before this movie because that's the battle of Plataea, which takes place, I think it said, in like 479 BC. And this movie takes place in the Battle of Salamis, the one at the end of the film, takes place in 480 BC. So, yeah, this movie takes place, the battle at the end of the film takes place after.
No, you have time wrong. BC, time goes backwards.
Oh, you're right. Okay, so the end of 300, yes, you're right. The end of 300 is the farthest you see in the 300 universe timeline.
Okay.
So this movie is even less fucking useful because you know that they're going to get to the point at the end of that movie where there's like 20,000 Spartans running around to beat the Persians. So yes, this movie's now, Eric, is even more useless.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I single-handedly just ruined this movie for myself.
I mean, this movie's already garbage.
Yeah, it's bad.
But that fact alone, that there's like a stinger at the end of 300 that's supposed to like let you go out of the theater on a high note.
Yeah.
Completely dismantles any shits you should give about this movie because you're just like, oh, that takes place after this movie.
God, you know what I want to do is I think it would be a great job to have, and I don't know if this job exists, but if it doesn't, it's formally submitting my resume for this job right now as a plot and story hole poker, where you bring me your story or I will read your script, and it's just my job to go, but wait, like, won't they do this? Or like, wouldn't this happen? Or like, why the fuck is this here? Or like, didn't they do this in the first movie? What happened to that? Like, just bring me all of your sequels, and I will tell you why your sequel is stupid and won't work, and then you can fix it. Or just not make it, because, yeah, what the fuck? Why? They obviously didn't have anybody doing that on this movie. Or if they did, he was doing a really bad job, and should be fired, and probably was. I don't know. Maybe he got a promotion. I don't know.
I agree with you. This movie it doesn't, I mean, just thinking about it in regards to the end of 300, this movie serves no purpose.
Yeah, it really doesn't. This movie, in a nutshell,
is an embarrassing piece of garbage that served no purpose.
Yeah.
Literally now knowing what we know.
Yeah. This movie was a vehicle for two things: 3D blood, Ava Green's titties.
And that's kind of it, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, that's it. I can't think of a better way to wrap up this movie than 3D blood, Ava Green's titties.
and Rodrigo Santoro dressed up like a human penis.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can watch the fucking first 300 for that. You don't need to see it in this one.
Yeah, fair enough. But you get to see what he, if you don't know what he actually looks like.
I mean,
but no, what I'm saying is, like, if you don't know what he looks like in actual, like, in real life.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't know what Rodrigo Santoro looks like in real life, and you see him in this movie at the beginning when he's Xerxes, and then when he becomes Xerxes, like God Xerxes, it's so fucking stupid.
It's weird how he looks much more Persian when he becomes a god, and he looks like very Spanish before he's a god.
He almost looks like he's Brazilian. What a surprise.
Is he Brazilian?
Yeah, he's Brazilian.
No. Yeah.
So what would you give the film out of 5?
It's gonna get a big fat 1, and the only one is it's getting 0.5 of a point for each of Ava Green's boobies.
That's simply stunning.
Yep. It gets 1 gigantically rock hard golden penis man.
He's coming out of that fluid that makes him into a god.
Oh yeah.
It's totally not like hobo jizz or hermit jizz.
He goes into this weird pool in the middle of like some weird thing in the middle of the fucking desert after hallucinating and taking a bunch of weird herbs and spices, and jumps into the fucking deep fryer of the fucking Colonel's magical whatever, and like goes in like a 6-foot-ish tall like Brazilian man and comes out a 8 feet tall golden penis man.
It's really ridiculous. I texted Eric when I was watching it, and all I said was, is this for fucking real? Because it's so dumb. I
mean, whatever. You're telling me that if you didn't have access to a gigantic golden penis man pool that you wouldn't fucking jump in? I fucking would.
Point, it's just so dumb. It's just so dumb. Like, who cares? I would give this film like a 1, like a half of 1, like a half a point out of 5. It's just,
wow, you really hated it.
I really didn't like the first movie either.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the first movie, I'd give the first 300 like a 2.
Yeah.
But this movie, there's just nothing. There is nothing redeeming about this film whatsoever. So.
Yeah, it's bad. It's not great.
What do you think the film has on Rotten Tomatoes?
Oh, I'm sure it's bad. I'm sure it's like in the 20 to 30 percentile range. If it's more than that, then I want those drugs that people are smoking.
43%.
I want those drugs. Are you fucking kidding me with this, Rotten Tomatoes? Who likes this movie?
It's bound to hit some reviewers as an empty exercise in stylish gore, and despite a gonzo-starring performance from Ava Green, 300 Rise of an Empire is a step down from its predecessor.
Wait, what did they call Ava Green's performance?
Gonzo.
Because she showed her titties?
Guess so.
That's why.
So here, I'll read a couple positive reviews from the top critics.
Care. There's no way.
I do want to hear what someone had to say that was positive. So this is from Peter Howell from the Toronto Star.
Yep, it's a guy. Not one woman is going to find anything positive about this movie.
The mere existence of 300 Rise of an Empire is worthy of note, especially the inventive means by which the story has been advanced.
Titties.
2.5 out of 4, and that's given fresh. Let's see if... Oh, there is a female review. This is from your neck of the woods, Los Angeles Times. Betsy Sharkey of the LA Times writes, the spectacularly brutal fighting is the film's main calling card, and in that Rise of an Empire doesn't disappoint.
She forgot to mention the titties.
Dude, get this. Richard Roper, the guy who took over for Siskel. Siskel and Ebert became Roper and Ebert. Gave the film, and I'm not making this up, 4.5 out of 5.
He loves titties. He's the dirtiest old man ever.
The triumph of production design, costumes, brilliantly choreographed battle sequences, and stunning CGI.
The CGI is not good in this movie.
What universe is this existing in?
Oh my God, somebody fire this man.
I don't...
This just goes to show that...
I think we just missed it. I think we missed it, Eric.
Movie critics, being a movie critic is the simple, easiest, and stupidest job on the face of the earth.
Yeah, take it from us. We're idiots.
We're idiots, and
so is everybody else. It's all fucking
we don't
subjective.
know anything. But I could honestly be a movie critic, and get paid to do it. I could. I totally could.
They're saying.
No paper would ever hire me because I cuss a lot and can't write to save my fucking ass. But I could do any of their jobs. So their opinion is just as valid as mine, or mine is just as valid as theirs. However you want to fucking put it. These guys are all idiots, and they can go fuck themselves. This movie is terrible.
We'll end this with, I would say, the perfect to sum up everything we've said. The reviewer for the New York Magazine /Vulture, his review is one sentence. Don't be surprised if 2 weeks from now you forget it ever existed. Got him.
Oh, that's fucking snarky as shit. What a fucking dick. But yeah, that's fucking... Why are all these fucking reviewers just fucking snarky assholes? Like, come on.
I mean, come on. When you see as many movies as they do and as we do, we have to be snarky. How else do you make it through the day?
Yeah, I don't know. Lots of alcohol and pizza.
Well, let's take another break and we'll play a preview for the next Culture Cast.
Happy birthday, Mother.
Sean, is that Amber?
I got a good deal through a lady at work.
Really? You still digital cameraman? You still use these?
Absolutely.
I love this one. Crazy to think what you could do if you did this for your full-time job.
Just a poor, struggling artist.
Enjoy your dinner, sir.
See you in 10 minutes, brother.
Welcome to Nino's. That's a beautiful car, sir. Yeah? Don't touch it.
Navigating home.
Oh, you beauty. Yo, talk to me.
Black card.
Shut up, Doc, for real?
Yeah. Everything cool on your end, yeah?
They're just getting their salads now, man.
Just checking here.
Jesus Christ!
Help me, please! We don't have much time.
Mimi Sosog.
Maserati. I'll be right up. Dude, the guy's outside! Where the hell are you?
I'm sorry. Visions.
He's got a girl chained up.
What were you doing at this guy's house?
I was robbing him.
Sir, we're investigating a girl chained up in the office.
Sorry to disappoint you.
You're gonna stay on it, right? You're gonna keep searching for the girl?
Stop harassing him.
Oh!
What's wrong?
We're not safe. None of us.
It's all good, I got your back. You're crazy, you know that? Crazy people get caught. You know why you're not in their little jail right now? Because you're in mine. He's gonna kill us. I'm gonna help you. I'm gonna get you out of here.
That's right, on the next Culture Cast, we're going to be talking about another film you may not have even realized came out. That film is Bad Samaritan, a film that's in your theaters right now, probably for only 1 week, probably about to be replaced by another film you didn't realize was coming out, a film with Gabrielle Union where she's a badass mom who's taken down criminals. But we're talking about Bad Samaritan. That other movie I think is called Breaking In. Sounds right.
I've definitely seen
the preview for it.
No, there's billboards for it up around
that's...
Los Angeles, so I have seen them. I know about that movie. I didn't even know about this movie.
Bad Samaritan, yeah, me either. Not until we were trying to figure out what new movie we were going to watch because we have the movie pass, so might as well use it.
You have no excuse not to go see movies.
Yeah, pretty much. So, until then, Eric, you're going to Egypt, so you're going to be gone for 2 weeks.
Yes.
So,
yes,
other than that, what have you been up to? Anything?
Just nothing. No, nada. Just watching movies. I'm just being butthurt that the one Marvel podcast that I wanted to be on, I couldn't because my throat was fucked. But I was happy to find out that
don't say it.
That you didn't know that Peter Dinklage wasn't British?
Fuck you. Hey, man. I mean, look, it's just one of those
worst
things.
British accent. It's not a great British accent. I mean, it's not.
No, it's a
there are
shitty
people
British
who have
accent.
worse,
But I thought he was like Irish or something. Like, I don't know.
Oh my God, no, dude.
I didn't think he was from, like, fucking East Coast or wherever the hell he's from. He's, like, from Missouri or some shit. Like, I didn't expect that.
Yeah, I don't know. He's a fucking regular-ass American dude. He's just, shorter than most. But
you're telling me that they stunt cast a midget as a midget in Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
And he wasn't an actual British short person? He was an American short person?
No, which actually brings me to my other question that I sort of brought up earlier is why is everything that is, like, set in medieval-ish times, why does everybody have a British accent?
I don't know. That's a good question.
I don't understand. Like, none of these people spoke English.
Why do all those motherfuckers in Star Wars have British accents?
Well, not everybody.
Well, no.
Han Solo doesn't.
Let's
Lando
not even
Calrissian doesn't have.
Let's not even go there. I will be so happy.
Princess Leia kind of does, and then she doesn't.
I will be so happy when that movie comes out, only because I won't have to see the fucking trailer for it ever again.
Oh my God, every day
God, that trailer with that guitar song is just like, oh my, it makes my fucking brain hurt.
Yeah. Yeah, every time I'm scrolling through Instagram or whatever, there's always like 14 little snippets of that. And I'm just like, Star Wars, I'm going to unfollow you from now on. Goodbye.
That and the Deadpool trailer. I'm so ready for those movies to come out.
Yeah. I think both of those movies are coming out while I am gone. Oh, no. Solo
Star
comes
Wars
back.
does it.
Yeah. Star Wars comes out right after I come back. So we'll be able to talk about how bad that fucking steaming pile of garbage is.
With Matt, nonetheless, because, of course, Matt is going to be joining us.
Yeah, he's going to love it. And you know what? I applaud Matt's love of film to see as many movies and to make art like he makes and still like movies is a testament to his Canadianism.
Kudos to him, as they would say. But until then, you can follow me on Twitter at CultureStash. You can follow Eric on Twitter at Tychomagnetics. And you can follow the website on Twitter at CultureShocked. If you head on over to cultureshock.com/culturecast, you can find out more about today's episode. You'll find links over to iTunes where you can rate and review the show. You'll find links to Patreon where you can kick a couple dollars our way. We've got an Infinity War addendum and a Ready Player One addendum if you want to check those out if you're a $5 patron. Also, we're on Spreaker now. That's where we're hosted. So if you download the Spreaker app and listen to the Culturecast there, that would really help us out. If not, we're on all podcatchers on iOS and Android. Big thanks as always to Eric and Wavoka and my good buddy Justin Scott for the intro outro music, and we'll catch you on the next Culturecast.
You know how we do, I'm just two-step, drink in my right hand, phone in my other hand, getting to the money, oh man, two-step, posted with the crew, yeah, you know how we do.
Hey, two-stepping, know what I'm saying? 1, 2, 1, 2, been jamming.